The landing and the mistake. The sky above planet Zirphonia was bright green, filled with floating jelly-like clouds. A silver spaceship slowly landed on soft purple grass. The ship's door opened with a quiet hiss. Captain Ray stepped out. He was the first human to ever land on this planet. Tall, curious, and wearing a shiny white spacesuit, he looked around with wide eyes. "Not bad," he whispered. "Doesn't smell like death." As he walked forward, small glowing plants moved aside, like they were shy. Tiny flying creatures buzzed past him giggling. Yes, giggling. Then he saw it. An alien. It stood about 5 feet tall. It looked like a mix between a cactus and a jellyfish. Its body was green and soft, but it had 2 long arms and 2 shiny round fruits on its chest. They glowed softly, like lanterns. Ray smiled. This was the moment. First contact. He reached out his hand to greet the alien. "Hello," he said. "I come in peace." The alien looked shocked. "Wait," it shouted in a bubbly voice. "Don't do that." But it was too late. Ray touched the alien's hand. Everything went silent. The alien jumped back like he had touched fire. "Hey, human! Stop shaking hands. You're supposed to compliment my melons." Ray blinked. "Your what?" "My melons." The alien pointed proudly to the 2 glowing fruits on its chest. "This is how we greet on Zirphonia. You look at the melons and give a compliment." Ray looked around, confused. Was this some weird joke? Nice shape?" he said slowly. The alien looked half happy, half offended. "That's not a good compliment. You're lucky I'm friendly. Others won't." Ray scratched his head. "Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know." The alien crossed its arms. "You humans always think touching is polite. Not here. Here, melons matter." Before Ray could respond, 3 more aliens floated down from the trees. They looked similar, but had different colored melons, blue, red, and golden. One of them whispered, "Is this the disrespectful human?" Another said, "The Queen must hear of this." Ray frowned. "Queen?" The first alien nodded. "Yes, the Melon Queen. She rules all of Zirphonia, and she is very serious about compliments." Suddenly the ground shook. A glowing platform rose from the ground beneath Ray. Before he could jump off, vines wrapped gently around his arms and legs. "Don't fight it," the alien said. "You are being invited to the palace." "Invited or arrested?" Ray asked nervously. The alien smiled. "Same thing here." The platform sank into the ground, taking Ray with it. The tunnel was lit with moving lights, and alien voices echoed in the distance. "This is not how I planned my day," Ray muttered. Note to self: never skip alien culture training. The tunnel opened into a huge underground hall. Giant crystals lit the room, and in the center sat the Melon Queen. She was massive, at least 10 feet tall. Her body sparkled like a tree made of gold. And her melons? They were the size of watermelons, glowing with deep purple light. "Bring the human forward," she said, her voice like music and thunder at the same time. Ray was pushed gently forward. He looked up. Hi." The Queen narrowed her eyes. "You touched one of my people without complimenting their melons." Ray raised his hands. "I didn't mean to be rude. Where I come from, shaking hands is normal." "Normal?" she repeated. "Is insulting our culture normal too?" Ray sighed. "No, I just didn't know the rules." The Queen was silent. Then she leaned forward. "You have 3 days to learn our ways," she said. "You must understand the importance of melons. If you fail, you will be composted." "Composted?" Ray asked. "Turned into plant food," the Queen said, smiling. The vines let go of him. He fell to the ground with a soft thud. "Take him to Florp," the Queen ordered. "He will be your guide." The first alien, Florp, stepped forward and helped Ray up. "Come on, human," Florp said. "You have much to learn, and not much time." As they walked out of the hall, Ray whispered, "Just tell me one thing." "What?" Is it always about melons here? Florp grinned. On Zerphonia, everything is about melons. The Melon Queen and her rules captain Ray was not having a good day. Just a few hours ago, he had landed on a peaceful alien planet, hoping for a calm first contact. Now, he was walking through glowing tunnels, being guided by a walking cactus with attitude toward a lesson in melon manners. The tunnel walls pulsed with light. They seemed alive, breathing gently like lungs. Alien voices echoed from somewhere above, humming in a strange rhythm, half song, half whisper. Florp, the plant alien who first met him, walked beside him. His steps made soft, squishy sounds. "You're lucky," Florp said. The last human, who touched without complimenting, was turned into fertilizer. Ray winced. "You're joking, right?" Florp didn't answer. They reached a wide chamber filled with soft blue grass and tall, glowing trees. In the center was a large crystal table shaped like a melon slice. Around it sat a group of aliens, all with different colored melons glowing on their chests. "This is the Council of Taste," Florp explained. "They handle melon ratings, cultural rules, and social greetings." Ray raised an eyebrow. "So, like fashion judges?" Florp nodded. "Exactly, but here, you wear your history. Each melon contains your memories, talents, and status. It's not just fruit, it's identity." "What happens if a melon is damaged?" Florp's face darkened. "You don't want to know." A tall alien, with golden vines for hair, stood and walked toward Ray. "I am Trila," she said, "head of Melon Protocol. Follow me." They entered another chamber. This one had floating screens, moving vines, and small melon-shaped drones hovering in the air. The air smelled sweet, like fruit mixed with electricity. Trila gestured to a glowing orb. "Place your hand here," she said. Ray hesitated, then touched it. The orb scanned him, then floated up, blinking red. "This human has zero melon etiquette," the orb announced. "I could have told you that," Florp mumbled. "We must begin training," Trila said. "Immediately." For the next few hours, Ray was shown videos, holograms, and live demonstrations of proper melon compliments. Never say, "nice size," too common. Never compare melons, every melon is unique. Always look directly at the melons when speaking, not above, not below. Ray struggled. At one point, he complimented a baby alien's melon by saying, "Cute little thing," and was almost kicked out of the room. By the end of the session, his head was spinning. "You really take fruit seriously," he muttered. "They are not fruit," Trila snapped. "They are soul vessels." Later that evening, Florp took Ray to a floating balcony. The sky above was dark now, filled with slow-moving stars. Some of them weren't stars. They were flying creatures with soft, glowing wings. "You tired?" Florp asked. "Exhausted," Ray said, "but also curious." "Good," Florp replied. "Curiosity is the first step to understanding." Ray leaned on the railing. "So this queen..." She seemed angry. "Does she always threaten composting?" Florp paused. "The queen wasn't always like this. Years ago she was kind and joyful. Her melons glowed bright pink, full of laughter. Now, they're deep purple, heavy, full of secrets." Ray looked at him. "What changed?" "No one knows," Florp said. "Some say she saw something in the Forbidden Garden. Others whisper that she lost a part of her melon." "Lost a part?" Ray asked. "How's that possible?" "Some say," Florp said quietly. "She split her melon to hide something. Suddenly a small melon drone flew in and beeped 3 times. 'Audience time,' it said. 'The queen wants to see you again,' Florp told Ray. 'Don't mess it up.' Back in the royal chamber, the Melon Queen sat on her throne. This time, the room was darker. Only her melons glowed, deep, slow pulses of purple light. "You've begun your lessons," she said. Ray nodded. "I'm trying to understand." "Trying is not enough," she replied. "Zerphonia's ways are old and sacred. The melon is memory. Without it, we are nothing." She leaned forward. You must pass 3 tests. Each test will teach you a piece of our truth. If you fail, your time here ends. Understood, Ray said, standing tall. The Queen smiled slightly. Your first test begins tomorrow. Florp will guide you to the Garden of Stories. As Ray turned to leave, she called out one last time. And Captain Ray, this world may look soft, but don't be fooled. Why? He asked. Because the sweetest melons often hide the sharpest thorns. The forbidden garden. It was still dark when Captain Ray woke up. His bed was soft and made of something like moss, but it smelled like lemon and hummed quietly while he slept. That alone was strange. But what was even stranger was the dream he had in it. He saw a shadowy figure standing in a field of glowing melons. The figure whispered, "Find the broken one." He sat up, blinking. The dream felt too real. A knock came on the wooden wall beside him. Not a door, just the wall itself. You awake, human? Florp's voice came through. Yeah, Ray said, standing and stretching. I didn't dream of anything weird, if that's what you're asking. Florp walked in, holding a round blue fruit with steam rising from it. Dream melons can do that, he said. They mess with your head if you sleep too close to one. Ray took the fruit. It tasted like pancakes and mint. Today's your first test, Florp said. The Queen has allowed you into the Garden of Stories. Ray looked up. I thought that place was off limits? Florp's expression turned serious. It is, to everyone but the Queen's chosen. And I'm chosen now? Florp shrugged. Or cursed. Hard to tell the difference. They walked for over an hour, past the melon fields, past the singing vines, past the talking rocks that only spoke in riddles. Soon the plants grew taller, thicker. The air became cooler, heavier. The path narrowed until it ended at a tall stone, gate covered in twisting green symbols. This is it, Florp whispered, the forbidden garden. Ray stepped forward. The moment he touched the gate, it opened on its own. Inside, everything was quiet. No humming plants, no floating drones. Just silence. Rows and rows of melon vines stretched across the land, but these melons were different. Instead of glowing, they were dark, almost black. These are old, Florp said softly, from before the Queen. Ray walked slowly, looking around. Most of the melons looked untouched. Others were cracked or covered in dust. They reached the center of the garden where a stone bench sat beside a dried-up fountain. On the ground near it, something caught Ray's eye. A human boot, dirty, cracked, and half buried in the soil. Florp. Ray picked it up. This is human-made. Florp didn't move. Ray looked at the nearby wall and saw something else, a faded symbol, painted in red, a circle with a small hand inside it. He knew that mark. It was from the first contact crew, a group of human explorers who had vanished 10 years ago. They were here, Ray whispered. But nobody ever reported finding this place. Florp finally spoke. Some stories never leave the garden. Suddenly, a low rustling sound came from behind the vines. Ray stepped forward, brushing the thick leaves aside, and saw a broken melon, split open, dry, no light. But beside it was something even more shocking, a data chip. He picked it up, wiped it clean, and held it up. This is from a human recorder, he said. I think one of them tried to leave a message. He turned it on. Static buzzed, then a voice crackled through. If anyone finds this garden is not just history. It's a prison. The Queen. She stores memories here, dangerous ones. She. The message cut out. Ray stared at the chip. The Queen is hiding something. Florp looked uncomfortable. You weren't supposed to find that. But I did. Some truths are heavy, Florp said. Like overripe melons. Hold them too long and they explode. Ray stood. This was my first test, right? What was I supposed to find? A story, Florp said. But not this one. Just then, a loud rumble echoed through the garden. The vines around them twisted sharply, pulling back. From the distance, a voice boomed, "You have gone too far." It was the Queen's voice echoing through the plants. Florp grabbed Ray's arm. "We need to go. Now." They ran back toward the gate. The garden around them started to shift as if alive. Some of the broken melons pulsed faintly, like something inside them was waking up. Ray looked back one last time. A cracked melon split open, and a human eye stared at him from inside. He gasped, but Florp pulled him forward. Back at the palace, the Queen waited, sitting calmly on her throne. "You found something," she said. Ray didn't answer. "The garden shows what is needed, not what is wanted," she continued. "You were shown secrets that were not yours to see." Ray finally spoke. "What happened to the other humans?" The Queen's eyes narrowed. "They failed," she said. "They tried to take what they did not understand. Or maybe they found something you didn't want them to understand." Silence filled the room. Finally, she stood. "Your next test awaits," she said. "But be warned, Captain Ray, if you keep digging into the soil, don't be surprised if something bites back." That night, Ray sat alone outside his room. The stars above him blinked softly. He held the chip in his hand. Someone had tried to warn him. And now, he had to find out why. Melon Tech and the truth, Captain Ray couldn't sleep. The stars above Zirphonia moved in slow, lazy circles, like they had all the time in the world. But Ray didn't. He had already seen too much. The broken melons. The hidden, human boot. The eye inside the fruit, and the chip. He held it in his hand now, watching it blink a faint red. He'd listened to the message 5 times. Each time, it made less sense. And more. The Queen stores memories here. Dangerous ones. What memories? And why were humans inside melons? The door to his room slid open with a soft creak. Florp entered quietly. "You're still awake." "I never even closed my eyes." Florp looked down at the chip in Ray's hand. "You're not going to let this go, are you?" "Would you?" Ray asked. Florp sighed. "There's a place not far. Old, hidden, not part of the Queen's kingdom anymore." "A place?" "A lab," Florp said, "where the first melons were made." They left before sunrise. Florp led. Ray through winding stone paths into a canyon filled with giant bones, remains of creatures that once lived here, long before the Queen's rule. Some of the bones were hollowed out and used as tunnels. Eventually, they reached a metal door buried under thick vines. "This is it," Florp said. "The lab of Drazi." Drazi? He was the first melon technician. The one who gave the plants, minds? Ray raised an eyebrow. "So this really is tech, not just fruit with personality." Florp nodded. "You wanted truth, human. Here it is." They pushed the door open. Inside was darkness, thick and quiet. The smell was strange. Part chemical, part sweet rot. Old machines lined the walls, most of them broken. Metal tables were covered in dust, vines, and dried-out fruit cores. Ray switched on his suit light. It fell on a screen in the back of the room. Still working. Still humming softly. A small robot arm blinked to life as they approached. Its voice was robotic yet polite. Identity detected, human, Captain Ray. "Welcome to Meloncore Lab." Ray stared. "It knows me?" Florp shrugged. "The tech is strange." The screen flashed. File, Human Melon Integration. Test log 027A video played. A young woman in a white lab coat spoke quickly to the camera. "We've done it. The memory storage inside melon flesh is stable. Better than crystal. Better than any synthetic tech. The plant accepts human neural data and preserves it. Alive." Ray leaned closer. "But there's a side effect. When a human's mind is placed in a melon, it doesn't sleep. It thinks. It dreams. And sometimes, it fights back." The screen cut off. Ray turned to Florp. "They were storing human minds. In the fruit?" Florp nodded slowly. "It was meant to be peaceful. A way to keep memories alive. to store wisdom for future generations. But something went wrong. They walked deeper into the lab. Ray found more storage pods, some shaped like melons, some like helmets made from plant matter. Inside one pod, dried vines curled around a cracked visor. On the wall was a symbol, a circle with a hand inside. This again, Ray whispered. The first contact crew. They were part of this. A second screen blinked on as they passed. This time. It showed the Queen. Younger. Smiling. Her melons were pink and glowing. This is Queen Seraphina. Day 14 of the Archive Project. I have agreed to store part of my memory in a melon for protection. If I am lost, let this version guide my people. Then her smile faded. But if something happens to me, something bad, do not open the backup, destroy it, bury it, forget me. The video ended. Ray turned slowly to Florp. She backed herself up into a melon. Florp looked away. Yes. But something must have gone wrong. A part of her was lost, Florp said quietly. A part she hid, and whatever it was, it changed her. Ray sat down on a bench made of old vines. She's not just ruling this world, he said. She's protecting something, Florp added, or hiding from it. Suddenly, a soft alarm beeped. A third screen lit up. This time, there was no video. Just text, project terminated by Royal. Order all memory. Melons locked warning, unknown entity detected in storage unit. 6. Bray looked around. Storage unit 6B? Florp pointed to a nearby door. Through there. Ray opened it slowly. Inside, a single melon sat on a glass pedestal. It was dark green, cracked slightly, and it was humming softly like it was breathing. He stepped closer. This one's alive, he whispered. Suddenly, a voice echoed in his mind. Hello? Is someone there? Ray froze. Did you hear that? Hear what? Florp asked. I've been waiting. So long. The melon pulsed, once, and then images flashed through Ray's mind. A human woman screaming, trapped inside the melon. The Queen weeping beside a broken pod, a map carved into stone, a secret place under the palace. And the same voice again. Help me. Find me. Free me. Ray gasped and stepped back. The melon cracked a little more. Florp, he said. Someone's inside that melon, and they're calling for help. Florp looked shocked. That's not possible. The melons don't speak to outsiders. This one does, Ray said. And I think it's part of the Queen. As they left the lab, the sky above Zerphonia had turned gold. A quiet wind blew through the canyons. Ray looked down at the chip in his hand, and then back at the lab's door. He knew now. This wasn't just a planet full of strange fruit. This was a living archive, and someone or something was trying to break free. Traitor in the garden, the sun over Zerphonia didn't rise like on Earth. It peeled across the sky layer by layer like a fruit shedding its skin. One moment the world was golden, the next it was soaked in soft orange light. Captain Ray stood quietly on the palace balcony, watching. His thoughts were louder than the wind. He kept replaying the voice he heard in the lab. Help me, find me, free me. A voice from inside a melon, a human mind, maybe part of the Queen herself, trapped, waiting. Florp stepped out beside him holding 2 steaming mugs of glow juice. You haven't said much since we left the lab. I'm thinking, Ray said, sipping the drink. It tasted like sweet tea and starlight. Florp leaned against the railing. You saw something, didn't you? In the melon? Ray nodded. Someone's alive in there, and I think they remember what the Queen forgot. Dangerous words, human. Truth is dangerous sometimes. Florp looked at him carefully. Then maybe you're ready to meet her. Ray blinked. Her? A rebel, Florp said quietly. Someone who doesn't believe the Queen is still fit to rule. She lives outside the vines beyond the borders. Why haven't you told me this before? Florp sighed. Because meeting her is treason, And I didn't know if I could trust you. And now? Florp smiled faintly. Now I'm not sure I can trust the Queen. They left at dusk. No flying pods, no glowing tunnels. Just a long, secret path through thick, wild vines and tangled roots. Birds with leaves for wings sang haunting songs from above. The jungle beyond the kingdom was wilder, untamed. The melon plants here were twisted, growing in sharp angles, their glow faint and flickering. After an hour, they reached a hidden cave, behind a wall of thorns. You sure this is safe? Ray asked. Absolutely not, Florp replied, but neither is silence. They ducked inside. The cave opened into a vast underground hollow filled with vines, roots, and strange lights. Small alien creatures ran along the walls, half plant, half spider, and in the center stood a tall figure, an alien with dark red skin, sharp eyes, and melons that didn't glow. Instead, they were carved with strange symbols. She turned slowly as Ray entered. So, this is the human, she said, the one who woke the sleeping fruit. Ray stood tall. And you are? Zentha, she said, former royal advisor, current enemy of the crown. Florp stepped forward. He's seen the old lab, the recordings, the voice in the melon. Zentha's eyes narrowed. Then you already know part of the truth. Ray nodded. Not enough. Why is the Queen hiding her past? Zentha walked over to a wall covered in glowing vines. She pulled one aside, revealing a hand-drawn map. A long time ago, she began, our people didn't store memories in melons. We used the earth, the roots, the wind. But Queen Seraphina believed we needed something better, something eternal. So, she worked with humans, Ray said. The lab, the memory fruit. Zentha nodded. It worked for a time. Melons that stored minds, ideas, even personalities. We called them keepers. They were sacred, but then something changed. Ray leaned closer. What changed? Zentha's voice dropped to a whisper. The Queen saw something, in one of the memories, something not meant to be seen. We think it broke her. What did she see? Ray asked. Zentha shook her head. We don't know, but she deleted half of her own melon mind, ordered all backups destroyed, and when others refused, she declared them traitors. Like you, Ray said. Zentha pointed to her carved melons. These symbols, they're not decorations. They're memory blocks, protection. If the Queen touches my melons, she sees only shadows. Ray raised an eyebrow. That might be the weirdest sentence I've ever heard. Florp cleared his throat. Focus, human. Zentha stepped closer to Ray. The Queen is not whole, she said. She rules without memory, without the part of her that once felt love or fear. That part is still out there, buried, caged, and if she finds it before we do? Ray stared at her. What happens? Zentha didn't blink. She won't just rule Zerphonia. She'll become it. Later that night, Ray sat by the fire with Florp and Zentha. Small, glowing insects buzzed, gently in the air. The cave ceiling sparkled like stars. I need to find the rest of the Queen's memories, Ray said. I saw something in the vision, a map. It showed a door, under the palace. Zentha nodded slowly. Then that's where the final piece is hidden. If we go back, Florp said, we'll be watched. The Queen is already suspicious. I don't care, Ray said. This isn't just about one planet. If the Queen loses control, who knows what she'll do? Zentha stood. I'll guide you to the entrance. But beyond that, it's up to you. Before they left, Zentha handed Ray a small orb. What's this? He asked. A memory seed, she replied. If something happens to you, it will keep your final thought safe. Plant it, and we'll know. You expect me to die? Zentha smiled. I expect you to be brave. Ray held the orb tightly. He didn't know what lay beneath the palace, but he was done running. The truth was growing, and like every melon on this strange planet, it was ready to burst. The Melon Rebellion begins in Zerphonia. The wind had changed. It no longer sang softly through the vines or whispered through the melon groves. Now it howled, sharp and restless, like it was searching for something or warning someone. Captain Ray stood at the edge of the Queen's palace wall, hidden behind tall, glowing stalks that bent toward him like curious children. Florp crouched, beside him, his vines twitching nervously. Zentha stood on his other side, her arms crossed, her eyes watching the palace gates. "Tonight's the only chance," she whispered. "Tomorrow is the Grand Melon Festival. Every citizen will be gathered. Every eye will be on the Queen." "Perfect time for a speech," Ray said. "Perfect time for a revolution," Zentha corrected. She reached into her belt and pulled out a small device. A pulse mirror, shaped like a fruit slice, but metallic and blinking red. "This will project your message to every melon link in the kingdom," she explained. "Even the ones implanted in their chests. They'll hear your words, no matter where they are." Ray held it carefully. "No pressure." Zentha turned to him. "Don't try to lead them. Just show them the truth. The people don't need a hero, Ray. They need a reason to question her," Florp added quietly. "And you've seen more truth than any of us." Hours passed. The three moved through secret tunnels under the palace, lit only by flickering root lights. The air was damp and full of soft hums, like thousands of voices whispering in their sleep. They passed carved walls showing ancient melons, huge, glowing, connected by thick vines to the hearts of the planet itself. "These are the originals," Zentha said. "The first memory fruits, created long before the Queen." Ray touched one of the carvings. It pulsed faintly beneath his fingers. "They're still alive," he whispered. "They remember everything," Florp said. "Even the things we've tried to forget." Finally, they reached the root chamber, a place deep beneath the palace where all memory vines connected. It looked like a cathedral made of plant veins and glowing fruit. Above them, thin glass, windows showed the palace floor above where the festival stage was being prepared. Zentha pointed toward a round door in the floor. "That leads to the Queen's lost melon," she said. "The one she buried. The one you saw in your vision." Ray nodded. "The one still calling to me." He stepped forward, but Florp grabbed his arm. "If we do this," Florp said, "there's no going back." Ray looked him in the eye. "There was no going back the moment I complimented the wrong melon." They opened the hatch. A narrow tunnel led downward. Colder, darker, and at the end of it, a room made entirely of crystal roots, tangled like veins. In the center, floating above a pool of glowing sap, was a single melon. Not like the others. This one was clear, transparent, and inside it was a face. Human. A woman. Beautiful, terrified, frozen in time, Ray gasped. "That's her, the real Queen, the part she buried." The voice returned. "You found me." Zentha stepped closer. "We have to connect her to the network. If the people see her, see the truth, they'll understand." Ray pulled out the pulse mirror and held it up. The melon glowed. The face inside blinked once, and then everything exploded into light. Above them in the palace square, the festival had begun. The Queen floated onto the stage, surrounded by dancers with sparkling melons on their shoulders. Music played. Children tossed glowing seeds into the crowd. Everyone was smiling, until the music stopped. A loud hum filled the air. Then static. Then, "This is Captain Ray. I'm not from this planet, but I've seen things your Queen doesn't. Want you to see?" Every melon in the crowd began to glow and tremble. The Queen froze. "What is this?" she hissed. A giant screen lit up above the stage. The face inside the clear melon appeared. The real Queen. Younger. Softer. Afraid. "If you're seeing this and then I failed to protect you, I made a choice to hide my fear, but in doing so I became something else, something cold. Please forgive me." The crowd gasped. Some backed away. Others touched their melons as if trying to silence the words. "It's fake," the Queen shouted. Old memories. False tricks. Ray's voice echoed again. She erased her own memory and locked away the best part of herself. The part that cared, the part that listened. She buried her fear, but also her love. The Queen's melons cracked slightly. She looked down. No. They're not supposed to do that. Her vines began to unravel. One of her advisors stepped back. Your Majesty, is it true? Silence, she screamed, grabbing him with a vine. But the people were already moving, not fighting, not fleeing, asking, why would she hide herself? What else is she keeping from us? Can a queen rule? If she forgets how to feel? The Queen roared, and sent out a pulse wave trying to override the memory signal. But Zentha's device held strong. And then, something incredible happened. A soft green glow rose from the people, from their melons, memories long buried. Rose, parents remembered lost children. Elders remembered old songs. Young ones remembered dreams they didn't know they had. A wave of truth swept through Zirphonia, and the Queen dropped to her knees. Her voice cracked. What have I become? Minutes later, the square was silent. Ray stepped onto the stage, unsure if he was a hero or a troublemaker. The Queen looked up at him. I wanted to protect them, she whispered. But I was protecting myself. Ray nodded. We all do. Until we're ready to grow again. She touched her chest. The last of her melons cracked fully open. Inside was a seed. Zentha stepped forward. It's not the end, she said. It's a beginning. The Queen handed the seed to Ray. Plant this, she said. Not as a queen, but as someone who finally remembers what it means to feel afraid and still love anyway. As the first star of night appeared, Ray stood outside the palace. In his hand was the seed of the old queen. Behind him, the people were talking, learning, questioning, and in front of him, bare soil, ready to grow something new. He dug a hole and planted the seed. The ground glowed softly, and for the first time in years, the wind over Zirphonia sang again, not with fear, but with hope. The grand melon festival chaos. The sun over Zirphonia cracked like an egg, ribbons of gold spilled across, the sky turning the clouds into glowing fruit slices. It was the day of the grand melon festival, and the planet was dressed like it was ready for a wedding. Vines braided with crystal lights, melon banners waving from every tree, and giant fruit-shaped balloons floating lazily in the sky. But underneath the beauty, tension twisted like a root ready to snap. Captain Ray stood behind the festival stage, hidden behind the curtain of singing vines. His heart beat faster than any drum in the square. Above him, a giant floating screen showed images of past festivals, laughing children, glowing melons, smiling citizens. But today's show would be different. Beside Ray stood Zentha, silent and steady. Her carved melons didn't glow, but they pulsed faintly with energy. Florp paced nervously, twisting his own vines. The people are ready, Florp whispered. They just don't know it yet. Ray adjusted his suit and glanced down at the memory seed the Queen had given him the night before. It pulsed softly in his palm, warm and alive. A piece of her real self. Not the ruler, not the voice of power. Just a memory that longed to grow. Zentha turned to him. The signal is set, the screen, the audio, all linked to every melon in the kingdom. Every melon? Ray asked. Zentha smirked. We're about to wake an entire planet. The crowd in the main square buzzed with excitement. Thousands of aliens filled the space. Plant-like beings in glowing robes, children bouncing glowing, seeds off their heads, merchants selling melon juice and memory charms. The Melon Queen stood high on her stage, flanked by royal guards, but something was off. Her usual glow was dimmer. Her vines were tighter. And her melons, once a bold purple, were now striped with dark cracks. She raised her arm. People of Zirphonia, she called, her voice echoing across the square. Today we celebrate unity, tradition, and the greatness of memory. Cheers erupted. But, she continued, There are those among us who bring confusion, who whisper lies, who speak of broken fruit and stolen seeds. Today, we will silence those voices. The cheering faded a little. Ray stepped onto the stage. The crowd gasped. Florp and Zentha followed close behind, not with weapons but with truth. "What is this?" the Queen snapped. "How dare you interrupt?" Ray raised his hand, and the giant screen behind them flickered and changed. Gone were the smiling faces and cheerful songs. Instead, the crowd saw a vision, the real Queen trapped inside the clear melon. Her eyes full of sadness, her voice soft but strong. "If you're hearing this, I buried part of myself. I was afraid. I made a terrible mistake." The crowd fell silent. Some aliens stepped forward, their melons glowing softly. Others held hands. One child began to cry. The Queen's face twisted. "Turn that off." She shot a vine toward the screen, but Zentha threw a small echo fruit at the base of the platform. It exploded in light, sending waves of sound through the crowd. And then, chaos. The screen split into dozens of floating images. Old lab videos, memories of human scientists, secret recordings from the Forbidden Garden, and worst of all, the Queen's own message hidden for years. Destroy the backups, delete the past, bury the seed. Aliens began shouting. She lied. She's hiding the truth. She erased herself. The Queen screamed and sent out a shockwave of energy. Her melons cracked violently, glowing with unstable light. "You fools," she roared. "I gave you order. I protected you from your memories." Ray stepped forward. "No, you protected yourself from them." She turned to him, eyes burning. "You think this world can survive with full memory? You think truth makes us better?" Zentha stepped beside Ray. "It makes us real." The Queen's melons began to leak light, white-hot energy dripping like tears. Her vines lashed out, striking at the rebels. Florp threw up a root shield, blocking one attack. "We have to end this now." "Not with violence," Ray said. "With growth." He pulled out the memory seed the Queen had given him. It pulsed brighter in his hand. He held it high. "This is her," he shouted. "The piece she lost, the part she buried. Her love, her fear, her memory of who she used to be." The Queen paused. Her vine stopped midair. The crowd went quiet. The seed pulsed again, and then Ray planted it. Right there, on the festival stage. The ground cracked gently, and from the soil, a small vine emerged, tiny, glowing, alive. The Queen stared at it. "That's impossible," she whispered. The vine grew. Quickly, wrapping around her leg gently, like an old friend. A single bloom opened, and from it, a voice. Her own voice. Soft. Kind. "Hello, Seraphina. I remember you. I remember when you were small, when you danced in the rain, when you cried at your first failed blossom. You were never meant to rule with fear." The Queen's eyes filled with light, not fire, but tears. Her body sagged, her melons dimmed, and then she fell to her knees. Later, the wind blew gently across the square. The Queen sat quietly beneath a newly grown memory tree, its leaves humming softly. Her crown was gone. Her vines were calm. Citizens gathered in small groups, not angry, not violent, just thinking. Florp stood with Zentha and Ray, watching the sun set. "So," Florp asked, "what happens now?" Zentha looked at the tree. "We start again. With real memory this time." Ray took a deep breath. "No more secrets?" Zentha smiled. "Some secrets are seeds. They're meant to grow, but not be buried." Behind them, children laughed as they touched the memory leaves and saw old stories unfold. Songs, jokes, old love letters stored in fruit. And far away, deep in the vines, 1,000 old melons slowly began to open, not explode. Open, welcoming, the past into the light. And Ray? He sat at the edge of the square, tired but peaceful. Florp handed him a drink. For the hero, Florp said. Ray smirked. I'm not a hero. No, Florp agreed. You're a human. And that's enough. Ray leaned back. Above them, the stars began to blink like curious eyes, and Zirphonia, at last, began to remember who it was. Compliments and goodbyes a week had passed since the day the queen fell to her knees and the truth bloomed from the soil. But on Zirphonia, time didn't move like a clock. It stretched like vines toward sunlight. Slowly, patiently, and things were beginning to change, not in loud, dramatic ways, not with parades or crowns or victories, but in quiet ones, like laughter returning to the melon fields, like elders gathering around younglings to share real stories, not rehearsed ones, like seeds planted in public spaces, growing small trees, of shared memory, where anyone could touch a leaf and learn something old, something forgotten. And Captain Ray? He was packing. His boots were dirty, his suit was scratched, and his brain felt like a fruit salad made of dreams, rebellion, science, and diplomacy. But he was smiling. Florp knocked on his door, this time gently. You really leaving? Ray looked up from his bag. Yeah. Ship's ready. System check's done, and I think Zirphonia doesn't need me anymore. Florp scratched his leafy head. Are you sure? You could stay. We still haven't shown you the singing melon caves or the floating orchard. Ray chuckled. Tempting. But I have reports to write and a shower that doesn't smell like fruit. Florp made a face. That's offensive. Ray smiled. It's been an honor, Florp. Really. Florp paused, then reached into a small pouch and pulled out a melon. Small, round, and glowing green. He handed it to Ray. This is for you. Ray blinked. You're giving me a melon? Not just any melon, Florp said. It's your melon, your memory fruit. I don't remember making that, Ray said. You didn't, Florp replied. We did. It holds the story of your time here, your thoughts, your feelings, your jokes, even your bad compliments. Ray turned it slowly in his hands. So, what do I do with it? You keep it, Florp said, or plant it, or give it to someone you trust. It's yours, your piece of this place. Ray nodded, eyes a little glassy. Zentha appeared in the doorway, arms crossed but smiling. Ready to say goodbye, human? As ready as I'll ever be, Ray said. They walked together to the launch field where his small ship stood under the sun, now fully repaired and freshly polished by a group of grateful melon growers. As they reached the ramp, a crowd began to gather, children, elders, farmers, rebels, even a few of the Queen's former advisors, and finally, the Queen herself, not dressed in gold, not surrounded by guards, just walking, quiet, humbled, her melons now soft pink, glowing gently, no longer cracked, no longer dangerous. She stepped forward. Captain Ray. He nodded respectfully. Your Majesty. She smiled softly. Not anymore, just Seraphina now, or the artist formerly known as Queen. Ray chuckled. Fair enough. I wanted to thank you, she said, for finding what I had lost, for reminding me that ruling is not remembering everything. It's remembering the right things. She reached into her robe and pulled out something small, a carved stone pendant in the shape of a seed. A gift, she said, made from the same tree you planted. Ray took it gently. Thank you. They stood for a moment in silence. Then Ray took a deep breath. Before I go, there's something I've been meaning to say. The crowd leaned in. Ray turned to Florp, looked him straight in the eye, and said, You've got really nice melons. Florp, the crowd gasped, then burst out laughing. Florp turned red, or as red as a plant could turn. Took you long enough, he muttered. Zentha grinned. Now that was a proper compliment. The Queen shook her head, laughing. Our historians are going to be very confused. Ray bowed dramatically. Just making history, one awkward phrase at a time. The engines of the ship hummed gently. Ray stepped onto the ramp, turned one last time to look at the planet, the vines, the faces, the sky that looked like fruit juice. He held up the melon given to him, and the crowd lifted theirs in return, a sea of glowing fruit, warm and bright, full of memory. He smiled, then turned, entered the ship, and the door slid closed behind him. As the ship lifted into the sky, the vines on the ground waved goodbye, and the planet whispered his name, into the roots so it would never be forgotten, not as a hero, not as a savior, just as the human who remembered how to compliment the melons. Epilogue. Months later, in a small garden near the central square of Zirphonia, a new tree grew. Not tall, not grand, but steady, and at its base sat a small plaque, written in simple letters. Here grew the truth, found by one who didn't shake hands, but gave compliments instead. And nearby, a youngling sat beside the tree, holding a melon in their lap, watching the leaves glow with old stories. They smiled and whispered, "Thanks, human."